So this is a dude who got rejected by 16 colleges in America, right? See, there's this whole idea that the left isn't racist and doesn't like exclude people. Yet here he is, this dude, rejected by 16 American colleges. And this is like the DII scams exposed. Right, so let's have a look at this video.
Rejected by nearly every school.
Could you read this?
It's impossible. I just see his words everywhere.
They don't want to solve the problem because they want to retain their power and control.
Hey guys, today we're talking about a student who was rejected from 16 universities only to be hired by Google as a software engineer. Now, universities claim to want the brightest minds, but then they reject someone with a near perfect SAT score, mind you. But one of the most competitive tech companies in the world hires him at 19. We have to discuss the reality of college admissions. Right now, one of these Ivy League universities probably just accepted someone because their college admissions essay was about how oppressed they are, right? How their mother didn't let them dye their hair when they were in 5th grade, and what that means for their gender identity. Because that's what matters nowadays, unfortunately, not your skills, not your intelligence, but whether or not
That kind of made me laugh because, like, I remember I was at Bible college, you know, a couple of years, it was like 2020, around about 2020. And I went in one day with like, the night before, like, I asked my friend Sonia to dye my hair like fudge red, like this red, right? And this is when I had hair. So this red, Harlequin red, right? And so it's nice, really bright red, Superman cape red, right? And it's long, so it's not like I'm bald or anything, but it's like long, right? You know, looking handsome, but bright red hair. So I went to it, and then we finished the class, and then my pastor comes up to me and goes, I don't want to see you with red hair tomorrow in college, in school, right? Back at class tomorrow. I said, okay. I didn't get upset. Then didn't pull, you know, oh, you're pressing me. I just went home. I just went and got Sonia. I said, hey, Sonia, you know, I can't show up like this tomorrow, so can you come over home again? Let's go get some black dye and let's go dye my hair again. So within 24 hours, my hair went from like black to bleach, ginger. You know, it goes like when you bleach your hair, right? Black hair goes kind of like in different shades, to red, bright fire engine red, Superman cape red, to black again within 24 hours. And I think that was the last time I dyed my hair, because after that, my hair started thinning. And that was just the fact that, you know, put so much chemicals in. So yeah, I thought that was funny that you just put that up about like, oh, you know, this part here. It was like very funny before you get into it.
because that's what matters nowadays, unfortunately, not your skills, not your intelligence, but whether identity, because that's what matters nowadays. They are, right? How their mother didn't let them dye their hair when they were in 5th grade, and what that means for their gender identity. Because that's what matters nowadays, unfortunately, not your skills, not your intelligence, but whether or not you make the university look diverse. Writing an essay like that could have helped Stanley, or maybe he should have joined the RCTA community. Because once again, most colleges now are not looking for the best and brightest, they're looking for the right kind of oppressed.
Stanley Zhong, a graduate of Palo Alto's Gun High School, the kid who founded his own document signing startup and was first recruited by Google when he was only 13 when they discovered his code, got rejected by nearly every school, including state schools like Cal Poly.
The dude got signed by Google at 13. He's a kid prodigy, genius, right? Or virtuoso, as I learned the word yesterday while watching Senju, right? Which is one of the clips we play on the way out on the stream. Senju, right? And at 19, he gets rejected. This is them gatekeeping the very people they said they want in, right? Because guess what? I bet he doesn't believe in the same things that school stands for, which is leftism, ideology, and all that. So probably just a normal dude, everyday person, just like a mom, dad, God, country kind of thing, right? Family, all that. It's sad to see talent be wasted this way, and it's not just done to Asians, it's done to anybody who doesn't toe the line when it comes to ideology.
And UC Davis.
For some of them, like Cal Poly, some of the state schools, I really thought, I had a good chance.
So his father has filed a new lawsuit on February 11th against the University of California and 5 UC campuses: UC Berkeley, UCLA, UCSD, UCSB, and UC Davis, as well as the U.S. Department of Education, for racial discrimination. What we're trying to get out of this is fair treatment for future Asian applicants going forward, including my other kids and my future grandkids. And listen to this, Stanley had a 4.42 GPA from Gunn High School and 1590 out of 1600 on the SATs, a near perfect score. It seems that these rejections have nothing to do with his qualifications, but rather racial discrimination in college admissions.
His story was brought up in a Capitol Hill hearing. In addition to that, you created an app.
Came up with the idea for Rabbit Sign probably around the end of middle school. Fully became a company with incorporation and everything in my sophomore year.
He started picking up coding on his own around age 10.
We really want to push for transparency because there shouldn't really need to be a need for speculation. If we get rejected, be able to look at, these are the reasons why.
So again, I'm glad they're fighting back. These universities only really care about appearing diverse, right? Also legacy, whose parents donated the most, and then the students don't really have to worry about getting accepted. Yeah. All of that is wrong. What happened in Harvard, for example, exposes quite well and how this disproportionately hurts Asian students. So of course, these colleges aren't supposed to.
So a couple of years ago, right? Asians, Indians, and Asian countries, right? Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, and so on, right? Indonesian and Filipino. So a couple of years ago, there was this whole thing about how all these colleges were discriminating against, and all these leftist, colleges, right? Who were getting government funding, right? Hundreds of millions of dollars from taxpayers who were basically gatekeeping the smart kids out because the dumb kids weren't smart enough to level up to the smart kids. So they were rewarding dumb kids by punishing smart kids. See, this is like, like that whole airplane thing where they put all the women in because they need the woman to be their, to be the face as the pilots and stuff. And then the plane flips over, and then you go, well, why were those women driving in the first place? They don't even have enough hours. Oh, because, we need to have women in there, but they don't have experience. Yeah, but we still needed to have women in there because we got to fill the quotas. And that's the sad thing about this sort of thing is like, it's about quota filling for diversity. However, they punish the smart because, hey, you can't have intelligent people learning, and lifting up it's brainless. See, I'm not a very smart person when it comes to stuff like this. Computers, I know how it works to, enough, but I couldn't put one together for the life of me. I couldn't explain to you how the motherboard works with the whatever, right? Instead of fatherboard. Or, all I know is how to put it together, and I know where the RAM goes and so on, and that's it. However, this guy at 13 years old knew how to code. He taught himself to code. When I was at primary, like at college, right? When I was at college, I had a friend who basically, where are we? Apologies. I always get this wrong. Here we go. When I was at college, like about third, fourth form, I had a friend who lived just up the road from me, who was very intelligent, like coding wise. I bet you if he still stuck to it, he would probably be working at Google or Microsoft or friggin' somewhere big like that, because that kid was coding, and I felt like I could code. I should be doing that as well, because I felt like I like computers, I like the games, and I could go and code some games. And I was sitting at my table with our VIC 20 or VIC 64 or something, Commodore 64, coding, and I had someone say to me, "Yeah, you don't need to learn that. That's not going to really matter." And I stopped doing it. Now, it's been one of my biggest regrets and the saddest thing about how adults can actually make children stop doing what they love doing just by a word like that. And so, whenever I see someone say, that anything negative about art or music, if a child is trying to learn or try to draw or play an instrument, I kind of go, hey, why not provide them with better instruments or better tools? Because it's important that when you see someone trying to learn something, that you encourage them. Because having been through the negative side of that, I want to be the one who encourages people and young kids to be able to learn more. And that's kind of like been my thing for, since I was young, right? Because it really hurt me when I was a kid hearing that until years later. I mean, when I heard that, it was like, yeah, this doesn't matter then. Of course, the adults know more than I do, right? So I'm just a kid. What do I know about this sort of thing? And yet here we are. Everything is run by computers. Everything in the world, like virtually everything. Well, 90%. The thing is that here's a kid, his dad saw him coding and probably said, yeah, let me encourage my son, right? And let me let my son, provide him with everything. So he's 13 years old, gets signed up with Google, yet he can't go to school, right? To the big schools at 19, and he gets rejected by 16 of them. Right? 16, all the big freaking schools reject him in America. And he's not the only one. They've been doing this across the board with all the smart kids, right, of Asian descent. And I mean like Indians, Sri Lankans, Chinese, Taiwanese, and all that, because in their minds that they're the smart ones. So if we have these smart kids in the colleges, then the dumb kids that we need to give the scholarships for free won't be able to get in there to make us look good. And so it's quite sad. So this is really, it's not really good look for these guys, and I'm glad they're getting sued.
To have race-based admissions, but they try and find loopholes, ways to get around it. So they use the personal essays to hint at racial identity. And then they want to get students that perhaps aren't even qualified just so that they can look better. So they also quietly move away from SAT and GPA. And why? Because DEI is not about fairness. It's about putting race above intelligence, above hard work. Exactly. And that is disgusting. Now, in Stanley's case, it's the university's loss because Stanley gets to work at Google, but not every student has that opportunity. Colleges should admit students based on merit, not race, not oppression points, not because mommy or daddy went there. Instead, we see them lowering the bar to artificially create diversity.
The Zhongs allege that UC is engaging in racial discrimination in admissions despite the law banning the use of race in the process. Your lawsuit is the second one this month against UC over its admissions. The first one was by a group called Students Against Racial Discrimination, alleging diversity considerations are overshadowing academic merit and disadvantaging Asians and white students in the process.
UC, in connection with Department of Education, they're both using race for some federal grant programs, and we allege that is unconstitutional.
And speaking of Google, the company and many others are rolling back their DEI initiatives because they realize it does not work. Because turns out when you focus on race over talent, you don't end up with the best employees. These universities should take notes. Our education system is a disaster. I also want to take a look at this Connecticut student who graduated with honors but cannot read or write.
Did you ever think you'd be going to college here?
No, never. Never in a million years.
The 19-year-old began her freshman year at the University of Connecticut in Hartford this fall. She's excited to study public policy, the culmination of hard work after moving north from Puerto Rico as a child. Even today, could you read this, or would it take you a long time?
It's impossible. I just see his words everywhere.
An illiterate honors student.
Alicia graduated from the Hartford public school system last year, but she says today...
This is why the American education system so screwed, right? That's why when you talk to people, certain leftist people in America, they don't really know what's going on in the world. Like, do you know what your country's been doing for the last 70 years in Latin America? No. Well, do you know that you toppled governments in South America? No. Do you know that your CIA helped dictators butcher nuns and priests and democratic activists? Right? and they overthrew democratically elected governments. They massacred whole towns. They were like on land that the government wanted, but the villagers didn't want to move off. Did you know that? No. That's because you're not being taught that, nor are you going out of you to learn that. Nor, and I should say, are you smart enough to learn that, because you're not being taught to question anything, right? To have actual discord. That's why words hurt them, right? You're hurting my feelings by saying such words, right? And it's so funny watching like certain types of Americans with this, and not only just Americans now, like it's all across the world, right? Because the whole US aid thing has really infused a corrupt system of learning across the world with funding from American taxpayers. And I remember when I was reading American Hegemony, I'm not going to be able to pronounce it. Let me just tell you what it is. Hegemony. No, I'm not going to. Right. So this is the word, right? So when I started learning about this is like what it was. And I'm sure you guys how to spell what this word is, but I just have real hard trouble pronouncing it. So, right. So it refers to dominance of leadership of one entity over others, often in a political, economic, cultural, and ideological sense. It can apply to nations, social groups, and even ideas that shape society. Now, isn't that what USA aid did, right? For the last couple decades, but especially in friggin' Latin America for 60 to 70 years. Why do you think that place is just such a horrible place to live in for people now, right? And why do you think all those those freaking cocaine and all the drug cartels got into power? Because of the democratic leaders who wanted to change their society, their countries were cut off, like had their heads chopped off, right? Or shot dead, or buried in mass graves, right? So this sort of stuff, a lot of people don't know about until you start learning about it and go out of your way to read about it. I did this like 15 years ago. I was looking into this 15 years ago, right? Because as a writer, I want to know as much about how the world works, how politics work, how people's brains work, either good, in the middle, or on the left, right, whatever, any side. I just want to understand people's minds, why they do the things they do, and what pushes them to do what they do. Because as someone who writes characters, who I want them to be realistic as possible, what makes them tick? It's very important to me to make them realistic to a reader. Because why else would everyone read my work if it's just another blasé rubbish piece of crap that you can find out of 1,000 other ones? So, I try to read all this stuff so that when I have this knowledge in my head, or even if I don't, I seek it out and go into finding out what I can do with that when I come to write a story. Because at the end of the day, I want to make a good story so that people get entertained, but also learn something. Maybe, not always, because entertainment doesn't always have to be about learning, right, or education. So this chick. And here's the thing, they don't say how she came over across. Is she an illegal migrant? Do you notice that they didn't mention, right, how she actually ended up as a child in America, right? Does she come legally or illegally? Because that's very important, because you're actually, not only are you cutting off someone who's smart enough as a citizen of America, whose parents have paid in their tax dollars to pay for the schools that they're trying to get the kids into, along with all the other Americans, citizens. But here's a lady, don't know, right, who could be basically taking that spot that probably belongs to Zhong, right, Stanley, the other 19-year-old, right, American, who's very smart, right? At 13 years old, he was writing code. He started up a startup because of that code. He started a company at 13 years old. Yet He wasn't allowed into these at the age of 19 to get into college. 16 other schools, right? Top tier schools. Yet this person who can't even freaking read or write gets an honors pass. Because with that, I'm sure she gets all the scholarships after tax dollars from the American people.
But cannot read or write.
Did you ever think you'd be going to college here?
No, never. Not very many years.
The 19-year-old began her freshman year at the University of Connecticut in Hartford this fall. She's excited to study public policy, the culmination of hard work after moving north from Puerto Rico as a child. Even today, could you read this, or would it take you a long time?
It's impossible. I just see his words everywhere.
An illiterate honors student.
Alicia graduated from the Hartford public school system last year, but she says today she is illiterate. She still doesn't know how to read or write. When she was in early education,
They would just either tell me to sit in a corner and sleep, or just draw pictures, flowers for them.
and when she was in high school, she relied on speech-to-text programs and other apps to read and write essays. Now, Alicia is suing the Hartford Board of Education and the city for negligence.
So that's what happens when universities prioritize diversity quotas and graduation rates instead of actual education. They just pass these kids through the system even if they're not prepared, give them the diploma, and then pretend that they did their job. Or let's talk about Baltimore, spending all that money on education, and yet in 23 schools, not one person was proficient in math. Zero. At some point, we have to ask, where is this money going? Because it sure is not helping the students.
Hey, do you remember like the little while ago, a couple of years ago, they were like, maths is racist? It's only racist when you can't do maths, right? Not when you're kidding to do it. I mean, I'm not really that great at maths because like that's not something I know how to add up. I'll get my calculator out on my phone and do whatever I can't work out, the long divisions, whatever. But this is at high school and intermediate or whatever. In New Zealand, we call it intermediate, right? High school or college. And at American universities, colleges, right? It's that whole college and university is kind of weird for me. I can never work out which is which. All I know is the higher education, right? In America. And these people, she didn't even know how to read or write. And I mentioned last time, like when I came over here, I really wasn't that good. So my mom was paying my neighbor straight across the street from us, right? Just over the friggin' street, right? To teach me how to read and write. And I had special reading classes all the way to, let me see, it's like year 9. I think it's year 9 if you really like high school, right? All the way to high school. I was in special reading classes because I don't know everything. Yet this girl is just like, oh, you go over there and draw, mate. And yet now she gets scholarships to, honors. It's just so, you can see why there isn't that many, the education system is so screwed in America. And people go, why is it so bad? Well, because all that money's being spent on dumb people because of DEI.
Students.
And 93% of 3rd through 8th graders tested below their grade level in the subject.
We're not able to get to the root cause of what's happening because the leadership here blames it on racism. We had Democratic leadership for decades. People here in power look like me, and everything's blamed on racism.
Why does the left refuse to solve the problem at its core?
They don't want to because not solving the problem keeps them in power. We do have a charter school here in Baltimore, a charter school with over 90% success rate of graduating Black boys that the Baltimore City School Board wants to shut down. So they don't want to solve the problem because they want to retain their power and control. Enough is enough. Fight back and tell them, no, these are our children. They have meaning and they have a purpose, and you don't get to ruin their lives.
It's sad and it's disheartening because today, more than ever, the school system has the money and the resources.
And of course, people of color, particularly Black Americans, were discriminated discriminated against in college admissions in the past. However, modern race-based admissions are not the answer. They create a new form of discrimination in the process. The solution is not to replace one form of racism with another. We cannot lower standards for some and raise them for others. It shouldn't matter if you're Black, Asian, white, Hispanic, all students should be held to the same academic standards. That way, you know that you actually earned it when you get accepted. That way, you're actually prepared for high school, for college, for your job, for the real world. If we actually want to have the best doctors, the best engineers, the best leaders, a strong country, then we have to put competence over quotas. The goal of college admission should be to select the most capable, hardworking students, not to artificially shape the student body to look a certain way. And that's all for today's video, guys. You let me know what you think in the comments below. Also remember to like, subscribe, and hit.
All right, that is from Misha Petrov. Do check out her channel, real Misha Petrov. So this is her link there to her channel.